Go Pizza presents SCP. The Steve Dangle Podcast with your hosts, Steve Dangle and Adam Wylde.
So what Steve's saying is they broke his phone. Is what he's saying. I think that's what he's saying.
They broke my Google Maps. They broke everything. That's why I'm late.
Our friend Steve is a little stressed out today, and today's show is going to be just a little bit shorter because what happened on the way down? We were supposed to start recording an hour ago.
What happened is I was falling behind on my Harry Potter, but now I'm like right up to date on account of they decided to block 2 lanes of a 3-lane highway through Whitby, Ontario, because, well, Adam, there were tiny little holes in the road.
I see.
So naturally, yeah.
See, now, if it were me doing that, I would say, why don't we do this at midnight when there are less cars, and therefore it's a little bit more safe.
Heavens, Adam. No.
That's great.
I assume that's how the conversation goes.
Yeah, well, of course.
Hey, shut up. Don't deflect. You went to Arizona. How was that?
Oh, we're not going to talk about that right now. It was great.
What?
Why would we start with that? The Leafs won last night.
Hey, you know what? Fair enough.
Yeah,
Screw
like,
Adam.
why are we starting with that? No way.
Hey.
And we got Eric Engels on the show in about half an hour to talk about the PK Subban, Brendan Gallagher stuff. But in the meantime, before we get into that, I want to shout out somebody on my Twitter DMs. Her name is Martina Lee. She said, "Hi, Adam. I just want to tell you that I'm currently in the hospital for a gallbladder problem, and I wanted to let you know that your guys' podcasts are keeping me smiling when all I want to do is cry. So I really just wanted to say thank you guys very much and keep up the awesome work. Martina Lee, we wish you all the health in the world. We love you, and thank you so much for taking the time to listen to our dumb show. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Go your gallbladder,
Yes.
I say. I'm
Did you
cheering.
know
What?
that if you get your gallbladder taken out, you can keep it? And gallbladder necklaces are a thing that's trendy on blogs.
You're making that up.
I
No
am
way.
not making any of this up.
No way.
You can get it stored in a container, and you can take it home, and you can make a necklace.
I don't even know how to spell gallbladder.
Gall.
Neck.
No, back up. So you can get it like hardened or something?
And
Or
you can look at the pictures.
what is a gallbladder? Let me see.
Gallstones on Etsy. There's an actual market devoted to gallstones
I
on
am
Etsy.
not
So you
lying.
can buy someone else's gallstones and put them around your neck and your wrist.
No.
They're actually kind of pretty.
Exactly.
They are kind of semi-precious, semi-precious gallstones. That's nice. That's nice.
No.
If you want to
stop
start an
it.
Etsy store and you got gallstones, and you got to get your gallbladder removed or the stones, I don't know how it works. You go get them, make it a little necklace, have a little side hustle.
All right, I'm
Make
with
a couple
Adam.
bucks.
Let's go to the Leafs game. Anyway, yeah, get better.
So red peppers. So I wanted to ask. I asked this question about a month ago.
So blowing a 3-goal lead. Nah.
I asked this question a month ago. I'm going to ask it again. Is Freddie Anderson this season, or maybe I should rephrase, when is Freddie Anderson this season outside of Toronto, which is obviously overblown all the time, when is he going to get the credit he deserves for the goalie that he is?
It's finally happening.
Is it finally happening?
It's finally happening, and unless he stumbles, I think he'll be on the Vezina ballot.
I don't think he wins the Vezina this year.
No.
But I agree he's on the Vezina ballot.
I think he's on the ballot. Yeah, Bob McKenzie kind of nailed it during the broadcast.
Who? I'm kidding.
Some
I'm
guy
kidding. We love
from
our guy.
some
Our boy
show.
Bob.
Yeah, Bab. So he basically said, unless Vasilevsky really stumbles, and he actually had a pretty bad game, I thought. Dude, he did not have a good game.
23 shots against and 4 goals
He
in.
did not
One
have a good
game,
game.
and you're like,
No.
he's kind of stumbling.
Well,
Jesse-
Vasilevsky, not good.
Oh, man, it's going to
You
suck
know-
when he becomes Andrei Pavlik, right?
You know, I might have mentioned that had you let me finish talking. I might have said that. So Vasilevsky didn't have the best game, but unless he really stumbled, unless every game for the rest of the season is like last night, he will win the Vezina. Not just be nominated, he'll win the Vezina. Freddie, on the other hand, if he keeps playing, he's right in the conversation too. He's in the nomination conversation.
See, it's interesting because there are goalies with better numbers.
Was that good?
Yeah, Freddie will get a trip to Vegas, and he'll go stand there or sit in his seat and lose to Vasilevsky.
Yeah. But hey,
At least he gets to go.
you're still on the podium at that point, right?
Yeah.
And that's the thing is that, like, here, Vasilevsky has way better numbers. He's got double the shutouts. He's got a 929, I think, save percentage going into last night.
Something
Freddie
like
was
that,
like
yeah.
921. Still both great.
Yeah.
But, you know, I think a lot of
No, they're equal on the website, so it's the same.
the NHL is listening, man.
Freddie's 921, Vasilevsky's 927.
Okay, so he lost a couple percentage points last night,
Yeah.
which, you know, he had an 860 or something last night, so it was a bad game. But I got to think, based on performance, not pedigree, because it's hard for people to distance themselves from reputations. Henrik Lundqvist has a fantastic reputation.
Yeah.
But has Henrik Lundqvist been Henrik Lundqvist recently?
I'd say recently he has.
He's been more Henrik Lundqvist than he was
for the first half of the season.
Yes.
You know
Except
what?
for against the Leafs.
A lot of awards, yeah, that's the most bizarre thing. A lot of awards are pedigree based and reputation based. This has been the one season where I don't think the Vezina has. It's been very strange. Like, first of all, Vasilevsky doesn't have the pedigree. He's been good for a while, but this is his first year as like truly dominant. And Freddie Anderson has worked his way into the Vezina conversation, not just because he deserves it, but also because Connor Hellebuck has kind of fallen out of it.
Right. Yeah.
Connor Hellebuck, what?
Yeah.
So he's one of the names I'm trying to think of. Corey Crawford was in there for a while, and then he fell out.
And that's what, unfortunately, he was injured. I know he's skating again, by the way, so he may be back, but hey. I don't think it makes a lot of sense at this point for him to come back.
No, you better be damn sure.
I think what's interesting is that, like, if you have, let's say Carey Price has a top 5, so he's 5th out of the top 5 in goaltending this year overall. Yeah. Let's say he has one of those seasons, right? Even if the Montreal Canadiens are bad, I believe Carey Price wins the Vezina because he is in the top 5.
Yeah.
But what's interesting about this year is you've got no coaches fired yet, and you've got goaltenders who normally are really great not being as great. Like, I know Columbus has had a few Listen, Columbus is still Columbus. Bobrovsky is still Bobrovsky. But are they as dominant as last year? Are they going on 17-game win streaks? No. And what's interesting is the coaching awards are going to be interesting this year, and I think the Vezina awards are going to be interesting this year because
coaching awards will be interesting because it'll be neat to see who's nominated next to Gerard Gallant.
Yeah, exactly.
Like
right.
that's over.
Yeah, and just
that
like
was over in November.
Just like with Vasilevsky and the Vezina, though, right?
Yeah.
Who will be nominated alongside him? I think obviously I'm a biased Toronto fan, but I gotta say Freddie Anderson deserves the nomination.
Definitely, and if
to this
he
point
doesn't get the nomination. If he's not one of the top 3 goalies in the league, he at very least deserves your respect because, the Leafs are back to their exciting ways, scoring all the time. And Austin and Willie and the Marleau Kadri-Marner line is usually lights out. Last night, But, Freddie holds them in games.
So and what does Steve usually say now?
What does he say?
Unless Freddie collapses for the rest of the season.
Unless Freddie Anderson.
What does Steve usually say now? As of like 3 minutes ago.
What if Freddie Anderson trips while he's shaving?
What if he just walks in there and then he breaks his leg?
Can't let me have anything. Can't let me have it.
I mean, it's good to know that you kept it up while I was gone, Jesse.
Oh, yeah.
That's good.
Nothing stopped.
Leafs hang on.
He did blow a skate blade today at practice.
There you go.
Freddie?
Yeah, and his teammates helped carry him off, but I'm sure it was an open practice, so I'm sure all the fans in attendance were like, ah!
Yeah,
and then they see, it's a skate blade.
Leafs hang on to beat Tampa. How big was that win last night?
Huge. Well, especially in the context of they almost blew it. I'm allowed to say it because they actually did.
But they didn't.
It's funny because it took 2 minutes, 1 minute at the end of the second period, and then the next minute and a half at the end of at the beginning of the third for them to blow it.
Yeah. Less.
It was within 3 minutes of each other.
Yeah, it was absolutely unbelievable. Kucherov scored 58 seconds into the third, and Yanni Gourde scored a minute 18. 20 seconds later.
Gotta watch out for Yanni Gourde.
21 goals,
I know.
this guy.
It's nuts.
Undrafted free agent. Piss off. Like the friggin' Lightning. Get out of here. So annoying. But then... JVR tied it, I think it was like 3 minutes later, something like that. And then they looked...
Didn't tie it, he put it ahead.
Sorry. Yeah, he put the Leafs ahead. And then the Leafs looked a lot less panicky than they did with a 3-0 lead.
Mm-hmm.
But Freddie had to be big in the final minute, make a huge save with about 9 seconds left. And, thank goodness Roman Polak was out there really holding the fort.
For the last minute!
Oh, my God.
Why is Polak out there?
Babcock must be stopped.
Do we have a reason?
Yeah.
He trusts
Our
him, man.
coach is stubborn.
Well, what blew me away is I think there had to be about 5 minutes left in the period, and Roman Polak's got all this time, and I just knew the tweets were coming.
Oh, my God.
And you saw this, where he hooks around the net, fires it off the glass, and then it's midway through the ice, and they stop it, and they come back in.
Yeah.
And Tampa is so fast with their transition game. You cannot do that.
Yeah, I don't. Man, I don't want to pile on the guy. Like, I feel like I've talked about him less recently because, like, listen, I've spoken my piece. I don't think he's the greatest option. And also the Leafs have been winning. But last night, especially against Tampa, where both teams were so fast, holy shit, is that guy slow. He's so bad. Like, Nylander blows by Braden Coburn. I will take Braden Coburn in a foot race with Roman Polak.
There you go.
Any day. Wow. Wow, is he slow. And the Leafs didn't allow a goal in the final minute when he was out there, but I would love to know how many attempts on net the Lightning had.
There were a few.
It was at least, 3 in the final 12 seconds. So,
Yeah.
it was bad. It was very bad. But again, they won.
They won.
They won.
Now, here's
Hooray.
the question, because now and I think interestingly so, the Leafs have controlled the narrative, as they tend to now. It used to be us controlling the narrative. Now they're like, well, we're going to point you in this direction, and everybody's going to talk about it. And the direction they're pointing us in, I think this is a smart one, and this is how you keep players motivated when you're 19 or 21 points up on a team.
21.
There you go. It's crazy. This is crazy, by the way.
Well,
The
you don't
format's
fix
nuts.
Fix the standings.
You know what's
NHL.
equally-
Come
We
on.
knew this was a bad idea.
We talked about
before.
it all last season going into the playoffs. The 1 and 2 seeds played each other in the second round.
That's so stupid.
Well, and fix the schedule, too, because while the Leafs are 21 points up on the Panthers have played 52 games to the Leafs 58.
and they've
There's
all
a 6-point
and they've
gap.
all had their bye weeks.
Yeah.
It was supposed to even out after the bye week because you're off. But
Nope.
no.
No,
And
the
what's-
Leafs and the Blues have been up at the top all season.
And the
basically.
Sabres, we have to play literally a playoff series against the Sabres over the course of a month.
Yeah.
Like 4 games in a month.
Eichel-less Sabres, too.
Yes.
Yeah, Justin Bourne pointed that out on Twitter, and you're never supposed to cheer for a guy's injury, but I was like, oh, no.
Oh, come on.
Part of me was just like, oh, no. That's so
That's
bad.
That's the kind of very terrible.
You're a
It's-
terrible guy.
Listen, I feel no pride in those feelings, but they're there.
Right.
I have them. I don't feel good about it.
So where Mike Babcock, where Lou Lamoriello have pointed us is, how likely is it that the Leafs get home advantage? A, which is tough. They got to get up on the Bruins or Tampa. And B, which I know they're going for, which is a bit of a longer shot because Tampa is still, I think, 6 points up as of this morning.
It's 79-73.
Yeah, so 6 points. So they have to try to catch the Lightning and catch the Bruins, who have both been very good.
Mm-hmm.
And they want to get home ice advantage. So if they catch one of the two teams, they get home ice. They don't get home ice. Well, they get home ice
No, I'm
advantage.
shaking my head because we're the 3 seed in the conference, and we're going to not have home ice advantage.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
Oh,
And
you
that's
know
the
what?
thing,
I
is that
hadn't
we're
We
ahead
really
of-
should be
considered
playing
that.
the 6th best team in the conference. We're going to end up playing the 1st.
Yeah.
Oh.
And that's
No,
what's
the
crazy.
second.
No, because we're going to play Tampa.
Well, depending on. Well, yeah, no. If the Bruins pass.
Oh,
them.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the second best, yeah. Sorry.
So,
Hey, Pittsburgh's like, welcome to our world.
yeah.
Yeah, that's
And you
true.
know what's
Not,
interesting?
not just conference, league for them last
If you
year.
take any of the teams in the Atlantic this year who are in the playoffs, none of the teams that are out,
That's crazy. I didn't even realize.
all
that,
3 of them would be number 1 in the Metropolitan Division.
Yeah,
that's
Which,
unbelievable.
considering what it was last year, that's a huge change.
Well, and it makes sense actually when you think about it because the Metro's so even, right?
Right.
Or,
And the
well,
Atlantic is have and have not.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a little bit. Yeah, we're talking about 3 of the top 5 teams in the league or something like that, and also I think what is it, 5 of the bottom 10
Yeah. Yep.
or something
Do you think
ridiculous like
the
that. or-
switches also happened with the Eastern Conference and the West? Do you think the East is the dominant conference now? Because for the middle of this
I do.
decade, it's been the West.
I think it is, and the reason I say that is because the California teams are not as scary as they used to be. To me, it was the California teams and like Nashville and then
And
Vancouver, Chicago. Like they were. I mean, those were the teams that won the cup besides Pittsburgh, right?
It was every single team that made the playoffs in the West was a Stanley Cup favorite.
Yeah, and St. Louis somehow in there was never considered the favorite, but they were always awesome.
And Pittsburgh is now back-to-back Stanley Cup champions, and I don't think they were a favorite to come out of the East either time.
Yeah.
So, you know, the East is pretty good, man.
They've pointed us towards
By the way, they're a contender again.
Pittsburgh.
Friggin' guys.
Of course they
They
are.
were never
Friggin'
not
guys.
a
They
They were never
contender.
not a contender.
No, but I mean, you couldn't tell by Twitter. Oh, we're 2 points out of a playoff spot. Whatever are we going to do? Oh no! Have you seen our goal differential because we played Niemi like twice? Oh, God. Woe is us, the Pittsburgh Penguins. We only have 2 generational centers to go with our marginal ones. Oh, no.
All right, can we now get your impression of Blackhawks fans who are complaining right now?
Oh, heavens! Oh, what is it like to tank? What are we going to do with our lives? Oh, it's been like 2 weeks since we fleeced a team in a trade. Oh, God.
But you have no outdoor games this year.
Oh, heavens.
But you do next year, I think, right? Don't they next year?
They have to wait a whole year to play an outdoor game.
Duncan Keith hasn't scored a goal. That's probably going to happen for the rest of his career. Oh, no. Yeah, that definitely will happen every time now and not ever again. No.
Wouldn't it be nice if that's your standard? If missing the playoffs is end your world? Because that is not what we've been. But I can't wait for that moment when we're like, oh, my God. The team is not as good as they once were, and they might miss the playoffs. I'm terrified.
Mark Lazarus went on a great rant about how Blackhawks fans are suffering and just losing it online, and they're not handling it well. I'll say what Mark Lazarus can't. Blackhawks fans, shut your friggin' mouth.
He stared at the camera saying that.
Shut your mouth.
The one up high, too.
The one up high.
That's a serious camera. That's
Here,
a serious
I'll look at the lower one so I can look down on you. Shut your friggin' mouth. Oh, okay, yeah, it's been a rough season. Why am I still looking into the camera? I don't know. Where are my jump cuts? Listen, it's been a rough season for you. I get it, but 3 cups in 6 years. Shut up and sit down. It happens, man. It happens. You had it. The Blackhawks could conceivably be fine next year. One free agent signing away from being fine.
Yeah, just like I think they were one trade away from being good this year, which was the Pernard-Sod trade.
Yeah, and it's not,
honestly, I think that would have made a huge difference for them. And
Corey
Crawford being playing.
Yeah, they let one playoff series allow them to lose their freaking minds. And listen, I can feel sympathy for a fan base while also thinking you should shut up at the same time. Look, I get it. What a wonderful standard you've set. That's what Babcock's focus has been all season is, the Leafs have had a playoff spot locked down for a long time. It's letting them not get complacent with it. And for the longest time, I was looking at the standings and going, sorry, what are the Leafs playing for right now? Exactly.
Well, and it seems like first place is what they're playing for now.
Good, because that's the only conceivable thing.
But it's achievable, and that's the cool part. Like, I mean, I remember watching
barely second.
I think it was the first year they had Cujo or the second year they had Cujo, and there was a spot in December where City TV did a report on the Maple Leafs, and they said, as crazy as this is to say, the Toronto Maple Leafs are first in the NHL currently. And it obviously didn't remain that way. But I remember that report. I remember that line going, wow, imagine if they hung on to this. Is so cool. But obviously it didn't. It'd be kind of neat for them to go and do it. And it would be, even if they just challenge for it, that's going to be the fun.
Or how about this? Right now, the Bruins are second. Let's say the standings stay the same until the final week, and the Leafs and Bruins are neck and neck. Tampa's still in first. Do you want to play Marchand, Bergeron, Pasternak 3 times at home or 4? I know my answer. I want to play them 4 times at the Air Canada Centre in a 7-game series. I want to be able to match them hard. I want to be able to make their lives miserable. I don't want to have to play them at the TD Garden. That's one of the best lines in the NHL. I don't think Tampa has any lines that stand up to that line. That's how good they are.
You say Kucherov, Stamkos, Nemestikov doesn't stand up to that?
You know what?
Kucherov and Stamkos.
Marchand, Bergeron is a bit of a wash. I'll take Pasternak over Nemestikov. No problem.
Well, I think you're right.
No problem.
Sure, but the line is still as good when they're all 3 together.
It's a very good. Listen, we're talking best of the best of the best. I think the Bergeron line's better.
Okay. Now, then, okay, so let's say this is going to be tough to do.
As a team, now we're having a different conversation.
Making up 6 points over the course of 10, 15 games is not easy, right? And they've got, I think, they got 30 something left. 20 something left.
Yeah.
What'll be interesting is who ends up being in the wild card. Right now, it's New Jersey and Carolina. And
New Jersey has not been very good.
Columbus is on the outside looking in, which is surprising, and I don't expect that to last. I feel like, they're having a little bit of a stutter here, but there's no way the Columbus Blue Jackets, I don't think, turn it around at some point. It would be kind of interesting, though, for the Leafs to play a young team like the New Jersey Devils, like the Carolina Hurricanes. And I can tell you, the one I want to play is Carolina. And because New Jersey, I was at that game, and they are a scary-looking team these days.
I was at the game early in the season when the Leafs lost 6-3 to New Jersey.
That was
that
it?
the game
Yeah,
you were
we were both
talking
at the same game.
Oh, okay.
Remember we
My
met?
bad. Oh, yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. Sorry, that was the fourth game of the season, man.
What just happened?
That was the fourth game of the season.
Yeah.
I'm sorry that I didn't remember meeting famous Adam Wylde. Actually, you know what distracted me that game is I was going to be on the Jumbotron, and the guy holding the camera dropped it, and it smashed into 6 pieces.
Oh, wow.
I've never seen that before.
That sucks.
I was like, oh,
That's
okay.
$25,000 right there.
Yeah, that was a very expensive bang that I just heard.
So, yeah.
But I think based on the games they've played against New Jersey, I'm a little worried about them. But the way they've been since like Christmas, I'll take either of those teams. Both those teams have played the Leafs well. New Jersey and Carolina.
They're kind of scary,
but
both of them.
Yeah, I'll take them.
Okay, so we gotta pivot here just a little bit and get to our buddy Eric Engels. We are due to talk to him.
Oh boy, is
here.
it already there?
It is already there. But we are going to come back to the Leafs because they do have a roster crunch. And my favorite thing about this is how Lou Lamoriello handled it. And also, was there a trade request with Josh Leivo or not? Favorite thing about Lou, as you tweeted yesterday, is that he's ours. So let's catch up with Eric. Eric Engels of Sportsnet.ca and Sportsnet just Dave. He's Eric. He's our boy Eric. Sportsnet.sportsnet. Every radio station, every outlet. Quickly. Yeah, whatever. Hi, Eric. How are you?
Nailed it.
Listen, man, it's my first day back. You got to give me a mulligan on that one,
Adam's
okay?
new here. This whole broadcasting thing.
If you don't know, Eric's a Montreal reporter. He's been on the show before, and Eric, obviously,
just having a great time covering the Habs.
Oh, but yeah, oh man, what a dramatic season, but what a dramatic weekend it was.
Yeah, it was. And, it's funny. Like, whenever things go bad in a season, I have multiple people ask me, because, this is 11 seasons I've been covering the Canadiens, and 3 of them have been pretty bad. And, people always ask me, wow, it must get so tiring and it must be so awful. And, honestly, as long as there's drama going on with the team and as long as there's a story to write, that's the fun part for me being a journalist, So it's, obviously you want the story to change here and there. You don't want them to lose 15 games in a row the same way you don't want them to win 15 games in a row. You need something dynamic going on, but at the same time, it's obviously easier to deal with players when they're winning games, and sometimes when they're losing, it can be a tough job. But outside of it, it's always fun. So it's still a fun season for me, and unfortunately, less of one for them.
Well, and it's always good when a player steps up as an attention seeker and steals the spotlight like Brendan Gallagher did,
and makes it all about PK Subban.
Typical. It's typical. It's very typical. No, so you had a better eye on that game. What exactly happened leading up to the blow up?
Yeah, the beautiful thing is it can add a little bit of context to the whole situation, right? So, first of all, Brendan Gallagher is not asked about PK Subban after the game. If it wasn't, him going after him in the first period, him going after him with a 25-foot run in the second period and landing on his face and ending up with, a few stitches over his eye, and him scoring a goal after shooting one into PK's ankle and picking up the rebound and scoring. So there was a battle going on there. The battle started in Nashville back in November, I think it was, when they played there. There was definitely something between them. And, I think everybody picks up on that. That's a story. A lot of Montreal fans are saying, oh, geez, it's too much with PK and this and that. And, you can't blame Brendan for getting annoyed, for being asked 3 times about PK. So let me set the scene for you. We walk into the room after the game, and the only player that's in there is Brendan Gallagher. I mean, Carey Price is taking his pads off, but Carey Price doesn't do his availability until everybody has spoken already in the room. So the only player in there is Brendan Gallagher. And the reason he's in there is not because he scored a goal in the game. It's because the PR staff is well aware of what the story is for the game. Brendan Gallagher is well aware of what the story is, especially since he played a central role in it. And, you know, what he was asked specifically was about that battle with PK, not, hey, can you tell us about PK? So, you know, a lot of fans took exception to, well, you know, he's being asked 3 times about PK. What do you expect? He clearly had a message that he wanted to deliver. It was clear to me in his comments were very well backed up by his actions. He did everything in the game to ensure that PK Subban would not be the center of attention. And his comments thereafter spoke to the fact that he didn't want him to be the center of attention because it's pretty clear he's fed up with PK being the center of attention. That was probably the case when the two were teammates. It was a pretty easy leap to make for many people who suggested, hey, here's the reason why this trade was made. Certainly factors in, and I don't think that's a huge leap to take. But at the end of the day, that's how things played out, and that's the context of how it played out, you know, for people that are wondering how do we end up with this, you know, kind of controversy. Is it manufactured? Is it media driven? It's really not. We go in there, you know, there's a main story to focus on, and the main story of that game, even though the Canadiens had 50 shots on net and Pekka Rinne stood on his head and was a genius, was that Brendan Gallagher and PK Subban had a battle going on, and it extended beyond just the ice.
You know, the interesting thing, Eric, about this story, that it continues here almost 2 years later, for me at least, is that nobody ever gave us even a sliver of an answer as to why. If the Montreal Canadiens had come out and said something definitively, because PK has come out and said, I don't know. And, you know,
definitively said, I don't know.
I don't really know. If the Montreal Canadiens had really just said it was this, or if any story had ever been confirmed through sources or whatever, I feel like it would have gone away by now. But because we're still left in the lurch about that, it becomes more fascinating every single time they play. And then you add a former teammate on top of it who's clearly upset with PK, whether or not they were friends while he was with the team. That, I mean, just makes it worse.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely magnifies the situation. That said, you know, it's about time somebody stepped up and just was honest about it. You know, we know plenty of the Montreal Canadiens, his teammates at the time, were fed up with the fact that, you know, his brand had grown kind of beyond the team. You know, hockey players who are bred constantly to talk about the logo on the front instead of the name on the back. You know, with Subban Inc., it was a different story here in Montreal. And I think those are all the reasons why PK should be celebrated in hockey. I think, you know, even I had a conversation with Shea Weber before the Canadiens went to Nashville, where he turned to me and said, and this was included in a piece that I ran where I interviewed both of them and had one-on-ones with both Weber and Subban. And he said, you know, I really appreciate what PK does outside of the rink. Like, we need players like him in the NHL. I certainly can't do it. I'm not that guy. Mm-hmm. So he thinks it's good for the game, and he's right. You know, there's a reason that the NHL is fourth among North American sports, and it's because they have not embraced marketing the individual. And yes, it can be annoying for teammates to realize that PK has fully embraced that type of attention. I think that's just who he is. That's his personality. And you know, when you walk into these rooms and they're so homogenous, I mean, it's nice to see somebody stand out. And PK never asked for the media to rush him every time he's standing in the locker room. We're interested in talking to him because he has something to say. So, you know, all that considered, he sucks up a lot of oxygen, no matter where he is, whether he's in Nashville or in Montreal. That's never going to be everybody's favorite thing. I think he's done a lot over the year and a half or so that he's been in Nashville to ensure that his teammates have an appreciation for what he does and that they feel as though he's making them a part of whatever he's trying to do and that he cares about his teammates above all. And you can see that the relationships there are a reflection of what he learned in Montreal.
And then it goes a layer deeper. Because, well, I guess you saw the Colton Orr-Burt tweet, and just to remind everyone, I'll bring it up. So you tweeted...
Oh, by the way, who is Colton Orr-Burt for people who forget?
Yeah, sorry. Colton Orr-Burt, I think he was picked 12th overall a bunch of years ago. He's a former Canadian World Junior, big body defenseman. He was one of those last kind of guys who was drafted primarily for his size, kind of before people realized, this isn't really the direction everything's going. He was notoriously, I think he was drafted ahead of I think the Kings that year could have had both Doughty, and had they not picked Tubert, could have had Carlson as well.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Can you imagine?
Can you imagine?
Some of the guys who went after Tubert are Eric Carlson, Jake Gardiner, Michael Delzato, Jordan Eberle,
Wow.
Tyler Ennis. So there you go.
Okay.
Wow. So anyway, you tweeted out, Brendan Gallagher was asked 3 times about PK Subban. These were his 3 answers verbatim, and then you sent out the quotes. Tubert quote tweeted that with "Don't let Monday get to you," Brendan Gallagher. And that was a bit confusing.
Because it was a Sunday.
Sorry, were you going to
It was
say
Saturday
something
night.
there?
I'm letting you get to your thought.
Okay, thank you. And then I see the first person I saw say something was Peter Robinson by Peter Robinson. He tweeted, "Tubert and Subban were teammates on Canada at the 2009 World Junior Hockey Championship. Open secret that many of his teammates referred to Subban as Monday, as in no one likes Mondays." Which, as soon as I saw that, I was like, that seems familiar. So everyone then started tweeting out an Urban Dictionary link or an Urban Dictionary screenshot. So Monday is used as a covert racial slur. And where I saw it getting discredited was, well, it's Urban Dictionary. What do you expect? The feeling I got instantly wasn't because I read an Urban Dictionary link. It's because it's the truth, and I knew it. I knew that was a thing. I'll just be general. What did you think when you first saw that?
Yeah, you know what? It didn't occur to me because I didn't know that it was a thing. That said, if you speak to different people, be them African Canadian or African American, I would bet that they didn't have to look it up. So,
well, that's what the Dimensions told that story for sure.
I would say the comment at best is ignorant, and at worst, it's racist. And Tubert is obviously apologetic and saying that was not his intention at all, and it's not at all what he meant. You figure somebody who's using the term for over 10 years or however long it's been since that World Junior, 8-9 years, they would know something about it. I can't speak. I'm not in his head. I have no idea. I know that. I spoke with Subban about it off the record, and he didn't have anything to say, and he won't say anything about it on the record, I don't believe. And I could also tell you that I saw Chris Stewart's response to it,
yep.
Where he basically called Tubert a clown, and then Tubert put out an apology to his followers on Twitter, to which Stewart responded, yeah, that's who you should be apologizing to, not the actual person that you called a Monday, at which point he apologized to Subban, which, I don't. All in all, that's where it died for me. I don't have much interest in that extended part of the story. And,
right.
All things considered, like, this started with Adam saying, who's Colton Tubert? Who is Colton Tubert? Right?
Well, exactly.
Well,
yeah.
And to your point about him apologizing, yes, he did apologize. But if you look at his Twitter from the last 2 days, it's the very opposite of an apology. He's kind of reveling in the attention, which, given the root of the story, is pretty ironic. And really, it's just a former somebody who is currently a nobody who is.
It is ironic.
Clinging to attention.
Let's leave it at best. It's an ignorant comment, and at worst, it's a racist one.
Bingo.
So, that's none of that's good. So
no, exactly. So let's move on to the deadline here, because it's coming up. Obviously, trade deadline day is 2 weeks tomorrow. Is it? Or is it
not this coming Monday, but the next Monday, Feb 26.
So Feb 26. Eric, I know you'll be a part of that, and you'll be on your phone the entire day. What do you expect out of the Montreal Canadiens camp? Is Thomas Plekanec, is he gone, or is he staying, or what's the deal?
Look, we've had 3 of the main insiders in hockey in the last week talk about the fact that, Marc Bergevin closed the door on the opportunity to sign Thomas Plekanec to a new contract. It's understandable because you look at the center depth of the Canadiens and note that he's their best defensive center, and the thought that they may be able to squeeze a really team-friendly deal out of the situation, it's all logical and reasonable. My suggestion is if Bergevin actually follows through with that, and I wrote this last Monday in my column, if he follows through with that before potentially trading him and waiting until the very last second to gauge what the market is and get the best possible price, it should be the last move he makes as general manager, because the opportunity that he has in front of him is to gather as many young assets and futures for a team that desperately needs them. You know, you look, I did a prospect report for sportsnet.ca at the beginning of the month where I was asked to pick the top 5 prospects in the organization. And what I wanted to do originally was, okay, you know, for me, top 5 means who's the closest to graduating to the NHL level. And if I had to pick 5 guys from their AHL team, people would laugh at that column and say, well, these are not their top 5 prospects. And like, not even close. Like, I couldn't even find 5 guys on that roster that I could say, all right, they're that close or they're the top prospects, and make that argument. So all to say, this is a team that has a bleak present. They're 10 points out of the playoffs. They're as many as the Leafs won last night, 20 points behind the Leafs and for 3rd place in the division. So they desperately need to address that situation in the present. And we're not talking about a full rebuild, I don't think, in Montreal. I don't see a reason to trade a Shea Weber or a Gary Price or a Jonathan Drouet, Alex Galchenyuk, or Tori Laakinen, Philip Deneau, or Brendan Gallagher. There's a good young core here that you can build around, and a couple foundational pieces in Weber and Price. And the best opportunity to do that is by trading a Thomas Plekanec for a 2nd-round pick, which would give you 4 second-round picks this year, is by trading a Max Pacioretty for a first and a top center prospect, almost an NHL-ready guy, or a guy who's a year away. Because if you go into this year's draft with 2 first-round picks and 4 second-round picks, potentially you could take 2 of those second-round picks and trade them for an established player, and your retool has come along that much faster. So, you know, I'm laying out the ideal plan for the Montreal Canadiens. We all know the other factors involved. What is the marketplace? What's it willing to pay? There's not a lot of centers available on the market pertaining to Plekanec. And knowing what he's done this year, scoring over 20 points, all of them at even strength, no power play time, starting 70% of his shifts in the defensive zone, playing against the best players in the world, night in, night out, hasn't lost a step in terms of speed at 35 years old. There's certainly value there. Pacioretty, you could talk about all those wingers that are on the market right now. Grabner, Nash, you know, obviously awesome rental options. Evander Kane. Then you have Pacioretty and Hoffman. You know, does that create some saturation? Yes. Is Pacioretty the best option of all of them? Outside of Nash, possibly and probably yes. So this is an amazing opportunity for Bergevin to turn things around quickly. For everybody that's lost faith in his ability to do that, you know, he has that opportunity in front of him right now. It's still his job. So, yeah, I mean, I think that's what I'm anticipating from here to the deadline. Will those guys 100% go? No, but I think those opportunities need to be explored to the depths as far as Bergevin can possibly explore them, because it's your best chance to turn this thing around and turn it around quickly.
Eric
Final
Engels.
question,
Final question. Oh,
because
sorry.
we've run out of time with you. Do the Canadiens sign Jonathan Tavares this summer?
Good question.
I mean, I can only put it this way. If Jonathan Tavares gets to unrestricted free agency, I don't believe there is a team out there that will have a better offer for him than the Montreal Canadiens. Whether or not he comes here is up to him. And I think if I had to put my money on it, he's staying put. I really do believe that. I don't have reason to believe otherwise, even though he hasn't signed yet. But until things change, if he is allowed to get to unrestricted free agency, if it's clear that he's not going to sign with the New York Islanders, I see the Canadiens trading for his rights, and I see them absolutely putting forth the best possible package that he could possibly get on the market. So anything's possible, but I wouldn't even put any percentages to it, because it's so far-fetched to even think about it without knowing at all anything about his intentions, which he's done a really good job of masking.
Yeah, even better than Steven Stamkos.
Confirmed. EE5.
Eric Engels, head Montreal reporter for Rogers Sportsnet. Eric, thanks so much for coming on. We hope next time it's a little bit longer, so hopefully we can catch up either sometime just before or just after the trade deadline. You know what? Just after, because I want to get what your thoughts are. I want to follow up on this and see.
Just before he's like, please no.
That's like tomorrow, right?
Yeah, basically. So, Eric, we'll talk to you in a few weeks, okay?
Yeah.
All right. Thanks so much for being on.
Thanks, man.
My pleasure, guys. It was fun.
Oh, it's the best. Thanks, buddy. Interesting Interesting for Mr. Eric Engels. I can't wait to find out what Montreal does. To me, they're the fascinating team going into the trade deadline.
Boy, there's a few.
Edmonton's also fascinating.
Also, every buyer. Like, every single buyer. Because what the hell do they do? There's nothing there.
Well, the Leafs have a roster crunch on their hands. Soshnikov is back. He's actually practicing, but he's still on the injured reserve.
Hilarious.
The Leafs doctors have not cleared him to play. He had 5 points in 5 games in 5 conditioning games for the Marlies. That means the rumored guys are Matt Martin, Nikita Soshnikov, and Josh Leivo. And they could send Dermott and Kapanen down, one of the two down.
Right.
But you're not going to do that because they've been great. Like, Kapanen barely missed a goal last night when he ended a defensive player on Tampa. I forget who it was. And ended his life with a quick little deke, came around the net, just missed the net, but it was an incredible little move. And you don't get that from fourth line guys.
He's so good. He's so ridiculous. He's getting to the point where I'm like, should he have Brown's spot? But no.
Not yet.
We're gonna let Brown have his thing. But wow, is he making he's giving them depth that they haven't had all season.
Yeah, Brown's been making a lot of noise lately.
He had a goal. He got a couple assists as well.
I think nothing for Brown noise.
Oh, South Park.
Come on, guys.
Man, you're right. You're right. We should have picked up on that. You're right. That's on us. That's on us.
We haven't been a trio for full 2 weeks.
For 2 shows.
4 years.
It's almost like we couldn't pick right back up.
But wait, Steve, what's wrong with us?
Well, broken femur.
So here's the deal.
8 months.
Though what did you want to say?
Well, I was going to get to Sosh. Are you getting to Sosh?
I was going to get to Leivo. What do you want to do first?
Interesting. They're both shenanigans. Let's start with Leivo.
Okay, well, let's start with the shenaniganery, which is the Josh Leivo situation. Because what his agent said was that he wants to play, or he's asked that they trade him.
Yes.
Sort of. Or at least that was the report. Now, his agent just said, Josh would jump in front of a bus, I believe was the quote for the Toronto Maple Leafs. He just wants to play.
Which is not a good idea.
No.
Don't do that.
Don't do that. The Leafs should be like, Josh, it's cool to love us, but not that much.
I would jump in front of a bus to play for the Leafs. He actually does it. And they visit him in the hospital. Well, we're really happy you did that, and it really showed
8 to 12
dedication.
months?
Yeah, but you're out for a long time.
Thanks for solving our problem.
Thanks, man.
LTIR, and
we're good.
Nikita, good to see you again.
The last 2 guys that made veiled trade requests, and I don't even want to say it was a trade request because we never saw them, we never heard about them, were Frank Corrado and Peter Holland.
And they were gone.
And that's, to me, why Josh Leivo seems like the most likely to go. Although, of those 3, he is by far the most talented.
But, see, he backtracked. Because when the rumors came out from Nick Kyprios on Hockey Night in Canada, it's pretty good place to have the rumor out there. Can we
just talk about the fact that a guy that's been scratched for 41 games is the biggest rumor on Hockey Night in Canada?
Man.
What?
Man. It's
Evander Kane, Max Pacioretty, Rick Nash, they're all in the trade market. No, we're going to talk about Josh Leivo.
Well, and to be fair, those guys were all talked about at some point as well.
Sure.
But I think reporters get excited when they have any Leaf stuff.
Sure.
Because there's none. There is none. Oh, something's got to happen by noon today. Nothing happens. Lou Lamoriello is there. He's trolling at this point. But Leivo backtracked. He doesn't want to get traded. He wants to be on this team. I think his agent might have said something like, can you freaking play my client, please? He wants to be here, just play him. But let's pretend Leivo did request a trade. Let's pretend that's the truth. Unconditionally, not play me, whatever. He just said, trade me. Trade me. I want to be traded. Lou Lamoriello has every reason in the world to lie. To lie and say, no, he didn't. Because a player who has requested a trade, well, all of a sudden,
Their value tanks.
If you lie and say he has not requested a trade, you hold all the cards again. Lou Lamoriello is not going to do anything to jeopardize the value of any of his players at all. I would argue he's jeopardizing his value by never playing him. Would you like the mystery box? I think that's a little bit of what it is. But no, Lou Lamoriello has every reason to lie in that situation. So why wouldn't he do it?
Now, what did you want to say about Nikita Soshnikov?
You know, it's funny. So he's not hurt. He's not hurt. He's very clearly not hurt. He had a 5-game conditioning stint with the Marlies. 2 goals, 3 assists, 5 points, 17 shots. And I tweeted that out, and Scott Wheeler, who I guess was at those games, starts tweeting about and he was delivering hits. He was getting hit and popping back up, and he was feisty. He looked like Nikita Soshnikov. It wasn't some imposter. He was Nikita Soshnikov. So the rule, maybe I should have had the rule ready. Cap Friendly tweeted out the rule.
Oh, I read this too.
That seems intentionally vague. And I want Leaf fans to, while I stall with my broken ass phone,
when you look that up, I want to say Lou's response to this is my favorite because he's like, nothing illegal is going on here. He said that was the tweet. Nothing illegal, not the tweet, the quote. Nothing illegal is going on here.
That was
Love
Lou's
that.
I did not inhale.
It's great. It's awesome.
Actually, that was Lou's I did inhale. That was the point.
I don't care. That's why I like him.
CBA 13.9, which talks to LTI conditioning loans, explains that the goal of LTI conditioning is solely to determine if the player is fit to play. If the club and team doctors feel the player is not yet ready at the conclusion of his conditioning stint, he can be recalled and remain on IR.
Can you read the last paragraph one more time?
If the club and team doctors feel the player is not yet ready at the conclusion of his conditioning stint, he can be recalled and remain on IR.
Then he's right.
They had
he's
every
absolutely right.
opportunity to write it differently, and they did not. It's literally up to the team. Tomorrow, what reason do they have to not be when the end of the season comes? Let's say the Leafs make an acquisition, they can just be like, Roman Polak's hurt. What? Oh, his injury from last year. It's flared up.
He's old, Estonian bones.
It's just, he's just, he got checked.
That's a good
because
one.
you see, and then someone else gets hurt. Now he's better. The rule is, look, they're not doing anything that is currently illegal, but I have a hard time believing that, come next CBA, they don't plop a stack of papers on a desk and be like, here is a list of all the shenanigans Brandon Pridham and Lou Lamoriello pulled as members of the Toronto Maple Leafs, and they might try to rectify it.
Will this next CBA happen 2 years into the lockout, or 1 year into the lockout, or 6 months? How's that going to work?
Lou Lamoriello is going to figure out how to make the Leafs the only eligible team to play, and they win the cup by default.
Yeah, there you go.
That's how we want to win the cup, by
Absolutely.
default.
Yeah, hey.
They beat up
wins
on
win,
some
man.
little league team from Colorado.
Yeah.
We are the champions. They're just...
No, they go to Mystery, Alaska, and they play a game.
They play Russell Crowe.
Russell Crowe. The guys are
versus
Mystery,
the New
Alaska.
York Rangers. Underrated shitty movie. Underrated
It's so
shitty
bad,
hockey movie.
and they almost tied it at the end, but it hit the crossbar.
Well, now they don't have to see it, Adam. You just deprived everyone of approximately 90 minutes of the best hockey movie they've ever seen.
I don't know what hockey movie you're talking about.
You've never
Mystery
heard
Alaska?
It
No,
is
I've never seen it.
so bad.
Wipe
Russell
your
Crowe.
memory of what you just heard and watch it.
Russell
because-
Crowe and his band of merry men from Alaska take on the New York Rangers.
Does he have an Australian accent?
No,
Oh, okay.
no, and he doesn't fight anyone. I don't think.
That I don't remember.
Is it like a parody movie?
No. Well, I mean, you'll
No.
watch it and think it is, but it is not. It is a hockey
Okay.
movie, and it is bad.
Okay.
But
I should watch it?
Yeah, my friend has a playlist on Spotify called "So Bad It's Good," and it's a bunch of '90s songs that are so bad that they're good. It's a movie that I would put in a playlist like that. It is so bad, it's good. You gotta watch. Maybe what we should do is we should rent out
a
a
theater.
Mystery Alaska. Yes, we should rent out a theater and watch it
With all of our listeners.
like
and
The
watch
Room,
Mystery
but
Alaska.
Mystery Alaska.
Yeah.
Oh, hi, Mark.
Also, when's the next Room coming out? The Seth Rogen one.
Oh, there's a second one.
Isn't that out?
He's
The
remaking it, is he
Disaster
not?
Artist?
Yeah. Is it already
He's
out?
remaking the actual movie now.
Oh, he's remaking the movie.
Yeah.
Oh my
Oh, I
God.
did not know
I'm
that.
getting way off topic. I'm sorry. I'll bring it up after. But
yeah.
he's remaking it.
I'm willing to bet it's on hold.
Yeah.
But yeah, Mystery Alaska, very good. Anyway, so no, the rules are written shitty. They're written shitty.
Or they're written great.
Or they're written great. Yeah, like, I'm okay.
And Lou is right, by the way, when he says, we're not doing anything illegal here. They're not.
I think what the NHLPA cares about primarily is are our players getting paid? Now, in the spirit of competition, other teams might get upset at this, and the Leafs are allowed to keep players they shouldn't ought to be keeping. But at the end of the day, Nikita Soshnikov is, as per his contract request, getting a full NHL salary. For what? For what? Has he played since getting called up?
I don't think so.
From that he needs to be called up thing?
Oh, no, he played once or twice. I think he did play.
And then he went on long-term injury reserve where it's Sosh. He might have actually been hurt. But he played 5 games with the Marlies. He's not hurt. He's not hurt. He's putting up numbers he's never put up in the American Hockey League before. This guy is ready for the show. At very least, he is a destroyer of worlds in the AHL. But it's literally up to the Leafs. And what are they going to do? Yeah, he's fine, which I guess means we're screwed. Would you do that?
No, I would not do that.
Would anyone listening
But
do
what's
that?
amazing-
I would, because it's right. Shut up, lone person saying that.
What's interesting about it is the Leafs seem to be the first ones. Name another situation where this has happened. And I don't fault
Is
them
that
for
devious
it.
or smart?
I think it's both. If it's devious, it's smart.
They hired a guy who made the rules,
and
and
how-
weirdly, he's found every loophole in the rules.
I just don't think any other team has as good management as us. Like, I think if they could take advantage of it, if they knew, they would.
And
But
it
we
seems
have
like
no shame, and we have all the knowledge, and we're just gonna do it.
And it seems like waiver wire pickups and scouting in the SHL and the KHL has picked up. And there's a lot of things. It's a copycat league. There's a lot of copycat stuff going
They've
on.
signed 2 players now who were signed long before they were signed.
Yeah. And another one probably this summer.
Yeah, well, yeah, so I guess 1, but soon to be 2.
And what about Borgman and Rosen? They might be included in
Yeah, I
that.
don't know if they were like long ahead of time. Rosen was rumored long ahead of time, but not as long as Zaitsev, who was like over a calendar year. Was a
Yeah.
Leaf.
Yeah, we knew about the summer before.
He was spotted wearing Leaf gear. It's hilarious.
So, but that is what I love about it is that it isn't illegal. They're playing by the rules.
I don't know if I love that about it.
Why not?
I love that it's, again, I love
Are they
that
going
it's
to
my
win?
team.
Hopefully they win.
Hopefully
Look where
they
they're
win.
at.
Hey, if they win, will he get to hold the cup?
I
Yes,
don't
he
know.
will.
I guess
Might not get his name on it, but he'll hold it.
Now, question. Because JVR has apparently been made unavailable, to me, what's interesting about that is
And
that
been
doesn't
much
mean he's
better.
not available.
No, again, like you hold all the chips by saying he's unavailable. So that means when we call the Leafs inquiring about JVR, we better knock their socks off. We don't want to waste Lou Lamoriello's time.
And I think it's a smart move to keep him. And here's the reason why. Look at all the trade bait boards. Look at all of them. What do you see? Winger, 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 winger. Pacioretty, Nash, Kane, big names. Pacioretty and Nash are in a different league than Kane, I would think, but still, Evander Kane's having a great year, and he's a younger guy.
They're 3 players who bring you something different, but that something is good.
How many teams are looking for a scoring winger? Is it more than 3?
Net front presence.
How many
half
teams?
Experience. Everybody.
And I would have said a month ago, they still think they should look at trading him and getting assets. But I might now, looking at what the market is, why would you trade him? Why would you make him available? Why would you tamper with this team that's doing extremely well, won 8 of their last 9?
8-1, yeah.
And, you're leading goal scorer besides Matthews.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, JVR has.
Wasn't he leading the team in shots? I heard last night. I was like, what?
That wouldn't
I didn't
surprise
know
me.
He did shoot.
He has blemishes in his game. There's no question.
But also, last few games I've noticed in the final 5 minutes or so, it's been Connor Brown, Tyler Bozak, Leo Komarov.
Yes, I noticed that last night too with them. Yeah, and as it should be. I would put that's Leo Komarov's role.
Probably. Anyone who's like, oh, but Leo, nah.
No, that's Leo's
Go
role.
ahead and tell me JVR is a great defensive player. I'll laugh in your face.
He's not, but that's okay. and he's the scoring winger that you rent at the deadline, only you're renting your own player. And you have him the whole year.
So we talked about this months ago. Jesse, you hate that term, right? Own rental?
Renting your
Or
own player?
Whatever it is.
No, I don't think I hate the term.
I thought you did. Or was
I-
it you?
I might have at the time. I've
Yeah.
completely flip-flopped on this.
I think it's a
agree.
great idea. I think you sit on JVR.
I flip-flopped on it because of a conversation that I had yesterday. Well, in part because of a conversation that I had yesterday with Jonathan Willis. So James Myrtle accidentally said...
What was Willis talking about?
You see, because it's like
Willis,
the show.
Yeah.
So James Myrtle accidentally set Twitter alight for a while because Peter Chiarelli was listed as being at last night's game between the Leafs and Lightning. So everyone's like, oh my God, who's going to get traded to Tampa or the Leafs? What is Edmonton going to give up? What are they going to get? And then it turned out
He didn't even show
Chiarelli
up.
wasn't even there. He got credentials, but he wasn't even there. But I was talking with Jonathan Willis about like a trade that can make sense. And I mentioned Soshnikov. I've mentioned Soshnikov to the Oilers in like November. I just think it makes sense. It makes really good sense for them.
Is it who comes back then?
Mark Letestu, because he's one of the best centers available, and he's Mark Letestu.
Is he one of the best centers available?
Name 5 better. Placanitz. All right, there we go.
Tyler Bozak.
Probably not available. Derek Brassard.
Absolutely not.
Better than Mark Letestu?
Sure he is. I mean, a Lamborghini is better than a Honda.
Then why did you say absolutely?
Because did you hear the asking price on Brassard?
Oh, yeah. So I was going to say it's a first, a prospect, and something else. I don't know what something else is, but
I think Ottawa's gotten to Pierre Dorian because you have lost your little mind, sir. You're out of your crazy
wasn't
mind.
the original trade Zabinajad and for Brassard?
And I think there were picks involved too. Well, and what's funny about the Brassard deal is his actual dollars, I think, go down to 3.5 next year.
But his hits 5.
Yeah, but wouldn't that make him exactly the type of player Ottawa would want?
You would think.
I would think, which is maybe why the price is so high.
Are
I
we
guess.
not getting Rick Nash?
No.
No.
Well, he's
Are
on
we
he's on the 12 teams that he would
Yeah.
accept a trade to.
And he's from Brampton. Like,
Yeah.
is that not what's happening?
Which, by the way, 16 teams make the playoffs, and he probably wants to go to all but 4 of them. You know what I mean? He'd
Yeah,
probably
he put
accept
12,
a trade
yeah.
to any of them.
Mhm.
Like,
Just put me in the playoffs.
It's not a big deal. That was annoying. Like, I get the
Where the
Leafs.
hell does Rick Nash fit in on the Leafs? We already have
No, we need more wingers.
Yeah.
a guy that's not even fast enough to, like, no offense to Rick Nash, but is that the style the Leafs play?
I don't hate the idea of Rick Nash as a Leaf. I
Hate
hate
the
idea
price.
of I hate the price. And the first thing my mind went to was, oh, well, Babcock used Rick Nash really well at the Vancouver Olympics. And then I was like, that was 8 years ago.
yes.
2 Olympics, Steve.
That was a 2 Winter Olympics.
Didn't he use
Jesse.
Patrick Marleau at those same games?
He used an all Sharks line of Marleau, Thornton, and Heatley.
Oh my
Who was the starting goaltender?
Luongo.
Wow, that was a while ago.
Luongo because he stole Brodeur's job.
Well, yes, because Brodeur started as the starter.
Yep.
And then he lost it 2 games in.
And who was the third goalie? I think it was Marc-Andre Fleury. I don't remember.
He's been
Probably
at
not
every
even
Olympics.
Carey Price.
No,
Not
they
even
had a
Carey Price.
crazy
Carey
line.
Price wasn't born yet. That's
Yeah,
how long
that's
ago it was. Fun fact.
It's true. That's good. That's good.
I think
funny.
they had a crazy line of it was either Stahl, Crosby, Iginla, or Nash, Crosby, Iginla. I want to say Nash was like on his shutdown line. He had a crazy game. If you can, go back and watch Canada versus Russia. Rick Nash was a freaking star. But again, 8 years ago. And yeah, where does he fit?
To me, what happens with the Leafs at this trade deadline, obviously, because like Derek Brassard, if you're going to go for a center, if you're going to go for a guy that you want around next year, the guy to go for me is Derek Brassard. But the
He'd be
price is too
excellent,
high.
for sure. And yeah, and again, there are so many really appealing options for
Like,
the Leafs
why
that
would
are
you
on
go-
divisional rivals.
And why would you, unless you can pry Plekanec? I don't even mind Plekanec for
Placanitz would be excellent.
second
But
round
for-
pick. I would
yeah.
I would do a
Montreal.
third.
For the playoffs when our lineup is already good enough.
Yeah, and the lineup is. I mean, it's. I think a lot of it has stabilized in the last few weeks, especially having Nikita Zaitsev back. Is really, I mean, the defense still isn't great. But having
Boy,
Nikita
Hainsey.
Zaitsev back sure did. I mean, that Hainsey
Would
play
you say
yesterday was
that
terrible.
It's average or above
Oh
average?
my gosh. That is the debate on Twitter right now, and I have no interest in getting into that. Who cares? Are they winning games? But
You should die on every anthill. That is the best way to spend your
Okay,
energy.
concerning the lineup, I have one question.
okay,
So since Babcock made the change to this faster,
The optimal lineup.
yeah, they are 8-1. So, are you upset at Babcock for playing the other way for the last 3 months, or are you okay with now that he's switched it? Because we've all been screaming for
Yeah.
this to happen, and then it happened and it worked. So
Annoyed.
Do we blame him for not making this switch sooner,
Well-
or was it smart to hold them back for so long?
The argument for it was always, well, he's teaching the Leafs how to play a different way. And so, and that was to play a different way to go with the way they were playing at the beginning of the season. So combine their crazy offensive skill with better defensive skill. Since he's made the change, they're almost like undefeated. What is the Leafs' all-time record with Kasperi Kapanen in the lineup?
it's got to be pretty good,
Probably
Yeah.
pretty good.
including a playoff overtime win.
I can look that up.
It's
actually.
probably like, man, they're probably like 700 at least, something like that. But I don't know. It was annoying. We knew he was trying to teach them something the whole time. There's no way, like in December in particular, for the love of God, like there's no way any coach with a brain in their head thought that was the way to wreck worlds.
Right, and I
But-
think,
but
I
look
think
at
he
him
knew
now.
that, and they are playing well.
It's interesting. It's almost like because he's been really like cantankerous and ornery in his pressers lately,
And
and
they're
really
quick.
curt,
Yeah,
very short, very curt. Almost as if to like he might as well just point at the standings every time he answers a question.
yeah,
See, I knew all along. Shut up,
and he might.
Leaf fans. Shut your mouth.
So the Leafs,
Shut your mouth.
We are paying him
Looked
$6.5
into the
million
camera.
to know that,
Yep.
the
and I'm
Leafs'
glad.
First 4 games of the season with Kapanen in the lineup, they lost all 4 of them. But if you take out those 4 games, they're 9-2 with it.
Even 9-6 isn't bad.
9-6 is pretty good.
Pretty good.
That'd be a good backup goaltender, I would say.
Hey.
right?
Hey, you're right.
That's not bad. You hope he plays a few more games, but
The
you know,
Leaf fans are saying to themselves, wow, a backup playing 15 games. Hold your horses.
that's a lot, sir.
We can't take away more games from Anderson. That's,
No.
Yeah, no. So
I had a dream the other night that Pickard played a game.
Is that what you dream
That's what you
about?
dream about?
I dream about the Leafs sometimes. I know, it's weird. I have weird.
Steve.
Yeah.
Hobbies.
I ate cheese before bed on purpose.
sleep with the TV on. You get some wicked dreams that way.
Oh, no.
Oh,
No, I
man.
couldn't
Good
fit
times.
sleep like that.
So yeah, no, I think if you look at the Leafs lineup now, I feel like they're not going to make a lot of noise. To me, the trades that seem most likely are this: Josh Leivo for whatever they traded Frank Corrado for. Especially to a team like, look at how great would Josh Leivo look on the Pittsburgh Penguins? Not that you want to trade him to the Eastern Conference, but then you got I think the Matt Martin stuff is for real.
Yeah.
I'm going to respond as I think Lou Lamoriello would respond. Go ahead. Keep
Okay,
saying your
I
ideas.
think the Matt. Well, I've said it. I think the Matt Martin trade speculation is for real. Of all of those 3 guys, I think Sosh is the one they want to keep. Leivo's a guy that they probably prefer to keep, and then you've got Matt Martin, who has not asked for a trade and has been a good soldier. But you know, they might be looking to move him. Chris Johnston on this show and on Hockey Night in Canada said they're looking at it. Maybe.
Would you like to know Mr. Lamoriello's
Sure,
response?
I would love to know that.
I think it's wonderful you're a fan.
True though. That's why I love Lou.
Man, the Leafs got to do this, got to do that, got to do that.
Nope.
Lou Lamoriello doesn't have to do a damn thing,
That's why I love
and he
him.
will not.
I hope at one point in my life I can be as non-reactive as he is.
Oh, has stoic.
He's so good. So good.
How many more times does Leafs Twitter, myself included, have to say the Leafs have to make a move today and have nothing happen for them to realize nothing's ever going to happen? Nothing's ever going to happen. The Leafs got to make a move today. No, we don't. Roman Polak's going to get another viral infection that went away in record time. He's fine. No, we got a guy. He's hurt. Oh, that guy got hurt. No, Pollock's fine.
Speaking of teams that I think will for sure make moves, do you believe the Pittsburgh Penguins when they say Riley Sheehan, we're comfortable with Riley Sheehan as their third center?
I think they're comfortable with him as their third line center in the current market. You know, man,
How much things cost, you mean?
Thomas Buchanan would be excellent for them.
Wouldn't he? That's what I thought. That seems like a logical fit to me.
Who are their centers? I forget. It's
Crosby, Malkin,
and
Sheehan.
who cares? Yeah, Sheehan and I don't actually know.
I don't know who
their
the
fourth
fourth
guy
is.
is.
Center.
Is it Greg McKegg again? Check out DLF Faceoff. This is the interesting thing. Like I read on Twitter today that teams were scared off by the price that Minnesota paid for Martin Hansel and Washington paid for Kevin Shattenkirk.
I don't mind the Shattenkirk price paid. I get why they did. It's a lot. But the Hansel was, to me, that was too much.
Hansel was insane.
That was insane.
And
Carter Rowney is playing fourth.
Oh, okay.
Fourth E for Pittsburgh.
And he's been one of those rent-a-players that they've had over the years where I'm like, oh, yeah, I know that name. I know that you're mostly an AHLer. Like, he's one of the... Friggin' Pittsburgh is another one of those teams, like Tampa, just pulling Yanni Gord out of a hat. Pissed me off.
That's
Not
what good
saying-
teams do.
I'm not saying Rowney's that, but I don't know. Okay, there's two ways you could look at it, right?
Mhm.
Let's just stand pat because there's nothing available. Or we could be one of the only teams to make an upgrade this deadline. Why not do it? Like, if no one else really makes a move and you're the team that goes out and get Thomas Buchanan, don't you think you look much better than everyone else? But again, like listen to the conversation we're having.
5 gold, or was it 5 gold Thomas Buchanan? Or no?
Well,
Oh, he's
you're not
getting
getting them for that.
No.
But, I mean, boy, it is slim pickings, eh?
Well,
And on
unless you're looking for wingers, and I don't know who is. That's the thing.
Is-
Like Pittsburgh would probably use a Pat Maroon or a Vander Kane because they've been sniffing around with Vander Kane. I'm sure Rick Nash would go there, but what's the cost? And can Pittsburgh pay it? And can they fit it under their salary cap?
what good teams need wingers? You know what I mean?
That's
Like,
my
it's
question.
the
Yeah.
most plentiful position.
Um,
Like,
Good point.
and
you
you're
probably have good centers, which is why you have good wingers. Good centers can make good wingers. Penguins fans nodding their heads.
and you've got Jack Johnson.
I'm sure
and
Brian Rust would have been a smash hit on the Leafs. Come on.
Mike Green and Jack Johnson are your defensemen. Maybe Ian Cole with the Penguins. Although I gotta say,
Come on.
why Ian or Eric Goodbranson with the Canucks? Like your options are limited there.
At this point, you're not looking at teams that have holes because their roster's not very good. You're looking at teams who have injuries. That's basically it. Otherwise, you're looking at marginal improvements on your bottom pair or third, maybe fourth line at best.
In the salary cap era, every team has a weakness. Every team.
Totally.
I think that what will be interesting is how NHL general managers evaluate their weaknesses and their potential opponent's ability to exploit those weaknesses. And I wonder if the Leafs look at it and go, okay, listen, this is also a building year. So for the Leafs themselves, and we'll get back to the Pens and everybody else in a second, Leafs themselves, unless you are, maybe you shedding some salary, making doing good by a guy like Matt Martin, who's been a good soldier, and trading him to the Islanders, which is, where he'd probably want to go. And you get his salary off the books for the next couple of years, which is a good thing. You got some big contracts coming up. Or maybe you retain a little bit this year or next year, whatever it is, whatever deal you work out. To me, it makes the most sense for them to just stand pat. And I know that Mike Babcock has said in press conferences, here's what I want. But if that price is too high, even Mike Babcock's going to say, well, we're not going to pay that. That's crazy.
Well, let's say the Leafs get rid of a first-round pick and they don't end up winning the Cup. So by the time the summer is done, you're now down a first-round pick, Leo Komarov, Tyler Bozak, JVR. You might wish that, okay, and then players need to get called up to replace those guys. But then who replaces them within the system? You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So you might wish that you had kept that thing. I mean, look at the Leafs in the standings. Look where they are. Where's the fire?
Yeah,
other
really.
than Roman Polak. Like, I mean,
Well, and that's a
unless
guy you already
that
have.
is specifically the position you're addressing, don't bother.
It doesn't make a lot of sense to me that they would make a lot of moves. I can't see it.
No. It's going to be a boring deadline. Unless it's not. That's a great thing about the trade deadline.
And with that, we should plug Sportsnet, February 26th.
Yeah.
Monday, February 26th.
8 a.m.
8 a.m.
everyone.
Oh, I'm so jacked. Are you there the whole time?
I don't know how our coverage is going to go, but we'll be checking in a lot. Yeah.
Well, see, here's what every deadline day, I plan nothing. I tell everybody, screw
Same.
off. I cancel all meetings. That is what I do.
Well,
I
it's
just hang
work
out.
now.
It is work now, yeah. Actually, yeah, that's kind of true. I kind of have to. And just like Free Agent Day, I even though it's my mom's birthday, I basically do nothing unless I have to go out with my mom, which is usually later in the night.
Alanis Morissette's birthday is Canada
July
Day?
the 1st, yeah.
That's
Okay.
amazing.
My mom, the American, is born on Canada Day. Funny.
Alanis Morissette is not American.
So that's one of those days where I clear my schedule. I think it'll be very, very interesting to see who pays the ultimate price, and by that I mean way too much, and then who goes, damn it, they did. Now we have to.
There's a lot of like weird names available. Like,
Matt Cullen goes
It's-
back to Pittsburgh.
yeah, like I mean, maybe.
Yeah.
There's a lot of. I think this year lacks obvious names.
Yes.
What it has though is a lot of interesting maybes. Chris Tanev, Max Domi,
Jack Johnson.
Jack Johnson. Yeah, he's a wild card. He's a wild card.
Because Columbus is a point out of the playoffs right now. Why are you trading a defenseman who's been who's very least a 5'6", could be a top 4?
it's going to be a very impactful 2 weeks.
Does
13
impactful
days.
is not a word, first of all.
It's not?
No.
Wow.
We're going to make it a word, though.
It said so
We
much.
changed the definition of literally. We're going to make impactful a word.
Does Vegas buy or sell? Because they should be selling. They have so much to sell, but they're the best team in the league right now.
Yeah, no, they're a Stanley Cup contender. Like, why not make a Disney movie?
Go for it.
Go out
for
and
it.
do it.
Yeah,
Go
you guys
for
are on the side of going
Because
for
you
it.
know what?
Okay.
They can buy. They've got
Yeah.
like 18 defensemen.
And
Like why?
picks.
And picks.
And a crazy amount of picks. And if you're bad next year, you're a second-year expansion team that's bad. Weird. That would be the most normal thing the Vegas Golden Knights had ever done, was be bad in their second year.
Yeah, man.
Go for it.
I think. Well, I mean, if you look at their full roster, they've got guys they can move
Mhm.
if they want to. They
Yeah,
got
but
young
why do
defensemen
that?
they can move.
Whee!
Well, that's what I mean.
Oh, you
to
mean-
upgrade.
Oh, you
Oh.
mean sell off the young guys?
Yeah, well,
Wow.
you could sell off. You could sell off a few pieces on that team, and like I'm not saying you not James Neal or William Karlsson or whatever, but like, what's Nate Schmidt up to?
Man, I want Nate Schmidt to ruin his former team.
No, I
I
don't want-
want to see Belmar score 4 hat tricks in a playoff series.
But
Like, I want this.
I'm talking about a
ragtag
superstar.
bunch of misfits win
Yeah.
the thing. I don't want to see any upgrades. I want to see them do it the way they've been doing it. I want William Karlsson to finish the playoffs with as many goals as he has now. Like, I just want to see it happen.
They're definitely making a movie about this,
Yeah.
and it has to start with Gerard Gallant's taxi cab drive. That's the opening scene. That has to be the opening scene, and if it's not,
No.
yes,
No.
yes,
With the stock
it
car horn
must.
sound in every movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's
we
George
can see-
McPhee getting the hook in Washington, but I feel like it's got to
Donald
be Gerard.
Trump firing George McPhee.
Donald Trump firing George McPhee because he's
Produced by
Cap.
John Scott and Greg Wyshynski. Executive
Live at Puck
producer.
Talks.
Yeah.
Hey,
Jeff Merrick.
by the way, did you guys hear that Russia
Dave
is?
Lozo.
Did you guys hear that Russia is holding its own Olympics
Are they really?
I believe it.
for all the banned athletes?
Are they
So all
really?
the athletes that they encouraged to take banned substances, they're now going to have their own
It's
competition
their
in
own
Russia.
cup of hope. I told you about the cup of hope. It's a thing they tried in the KHL a while ago. They had a tournament for all the teams who missed the playoffs in the
I think
KHL.
that's freaking brilliant. I love that.
And
Cup of hope.
Dynamo Riga, backed by goaltender Michael Telquist,
Wow.
won the thing. They won the
Cup
thing.
of hope. I love it. Let's do the press conference.
Adam?
Yes.
The most upvoted question with 9 points is, tell me about your honeymoon.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay. Honeymoon's
People
great.
wanna know.
Honeymoon was great.
Very tanned.
We were in Sedona. So that's for everybody who is not a Coyotes fan. That's in Arizona.
Coyotes destroyed the Blackhawks last night. By
It
the way,
was
shout
crazy.
out Coyotes
Yo,
fans.
seriously.
We haven't done this very many times this year, so congratulations.
That's great. Yeah, Sedona's cool because it's one of those. It's like a tourist spot, but it's not. So there's an interesting history there. First off, if you've never read Walt Disney's autobiography, I recommend you do.
Daily.
He talks about how much he loved. Well, he doesn't. It's not an autobiography; it's a biography. But he talks about
Of course,
his.
you've read this.
No, but he's fascinating. But one of the
he?
things he likes, he loves, is the Wild West. And Sedona was where he wanted to put Disney World.
Oh, that's a bad call.
That's in the
Who talked him out of it?
Well,
what smart person said no?
The state said no. And I think it ended up it was just Disneyland or Disney World. Probably Disneyland, which ended up in California, which was smart. Or Disney World, which would have been Florida. But it's amazing and it's beautiful. And it's all red rock, obviously. My shoes were all stained red. But I thought was so cool about it was that it's been a hippie commune since like the late 60s. And the reason is that there were
Weed.
No, Vietnam.
Oh.
Bunch of draft dodgers went out there because they couldn't find them because it was so remote at that point.
That's cool.
And so it became this real spiritual, like hippy dippy place. And it's now mixed with tourism, but it's both. And so they also have these things called vortexes there, which is basically, long story short, and I'm not sure I fully believe it, earth energy converges there. Kind of like what they say at Stonehenge. And there's several different spots that it apparently happens at, and they've scientifically proven it and whatever. So there's like a whole bunch of crazy stuff going on there, and you meet some crazy characters.
Which podcast am I on?
I know. Listen, it's whack. It's so crazy. But
It's been scientifically proven.
it has. They've taken electrometers.
Who
or
did I
whatever.
just do an impression of? Mark Madden?
Yeah.
I don't know.
They had we were waiting to go do yoga in the mountains where those ridiculous pictures of me doing yoga were taken, which were so bad. I
You
know.
looked like hieroglyphics.
It was so bad. But
Someone texted me one of your pictures. I won't say who, but they texted me one of your pictures with the caption, "Let's get down to business to defeat the Huns." Sorry. I thought it was very funny.
that is good. No, they
I don't get your reference.
Mulan.
yeah.
Like the
Steve
Disney
would
movie?
have to know the Disney movie reference. He's married to Mrs. Dangle. So we're waiting for Yogi Blair. And I'll tell you about Yogi Blair in a second.
Yogi Berra?
Yogi Blair. But this guy...
Is that Jeff's brother?
No, there's a guy walking around the parking lot.
You'll get today.
Trust me. You're going to want to hear this story. There's a guy walking around the parking lot.
All right. Yeah, downward dog.
There's a guy walking around the parking lot where we're
That's
waiting
very
to go on
inside
the...
baseball.
Oh, for fuck's sake. I'm fucking done.
Yeah, all right. Well, now that Adam's quit.
I'm glad that you're doing the impression of the guy that you work with
We're gonna
over
throw
this fucking story that our listeners
We're
wanted
gonna
us
throw
to
it into
ask.
a quick chaturanga here.
All right. Let's get back to this.
People don't like my Jeff Blair humor. I made Jesse laugh. That's all that I needed.
You were literally only making me laugh, and you were not concerned with anybody else.
Everybody else is
listening.
waiting, so we're all waiting.
All right.
So we're waiting for this guy, and we're in a parking lot, and it's right at a trailhead, and we're about to go on a hike and then do yoga or whatever. This guy is walking around with his two dogs, and these two little frou-frou dogs, and he's talking to somebody, like looks like a park ranger or something, who's putting stakes in the ground. And he comes over, and the way he breaks the ice with us, this character, is he goes, "Oh, the two dogs saw you. Now they want to come say hi." And to give you some reference, the two dogs are about 8 pounds each and have no interest in Capri Sun. Zero. He came over because that's his opening line. "Oh, the dogs saw you." The dogs are fucking behind him, okay? Like, they did not see us and did not want to come say hi. He's got tobacco stains on his fingers from smoking so much. He's got one of the, you know those yellowy brown colors that people get?
I'm glad that he lied to you because the honest thing to say would have been, "You look neat," and that's a lot creepier. So
That's exactly what it was. And he had yellow stained tobacco teeth or whatever, but it looked like he'd showered recently and had a house in the area and whatever.
Oh, thank goodness.
But what Sedona attracts are characters. They're weirdos. They're people that believe in conspiracy theories. So this guy was so pissed because he said, "Those blue stakes in the ground, that's the new 5G LTE tower that they're going to put in. And it's so bad for your health. And the rich people in this, the rich Fs in this area, they're the ones that want it, but they should put it on the other side of the hill because I don't want that radiating outside near my house. And he's sitting there, and we're sitting there like listening to this guy, and we have nothing to say, nothing to add. I don't even know what 5G LTE is. I'm assuming it's for my cell phone. And I'm like,
maybe a thing he made up.
maybe. I've never even heard of it.
That's a thing.
It's a thing.
No,
Okay,
It's a
there you
thing,
go.
yeah.
No.
My conspiracy theory is it doesn't exist.
And
Did they break your phone, Steve?
They did.
All right.
so he's
So that they could install this death government tower.
so we're listening to this fucking guy for 20 minutes, and we're too polite to say anything like, "Hey man, like we just want to hang out. Like, can you move on?" Like, and he's like, "Oh, the government this and the government that, and then whatever." And then finally, there's this guy who comes up, and I don't know if you've ever seen those. There's a hat out of East Asia that is kind of like a top. It's like you know the hats that
the
are
giant
the
visor?
round, but it's around. It's circular. It's all the way around, and it's pointed at the top. It's like a round pyramid, right?
Yeah.
He's wearing one of these hats. White dude. The longest limbs I've ever seen in my entire life on a human being.
Excuse you. I'm sitting right
Sorry,
here.
Sorry, longer than you. This
That's
man.
untrue.
And he's got
My
Jesse.
wingspan is 6'6".
Adam is trying to tell a story about Kristaps Porzingis.
It's true, right?
You allow him.
He's got these cut off. It looks like he made his pants out of like a yoga rug, and they're like they're cut offs.
Was there a guy named Trevor Phillips?
No, it's crazy, and he is hard anyway. So this guy starts the conversation, and it turns out that this is our yogi. It's Yogi Blair.
Oh wow.
And so Yogi Blair's like, oh, that's nice, that's great. And then he moves. He kind of moves the guy along, and then he's like, hi, I'm Yogi Blair, and he gives Caprice an enormous hug. He gives me an enormous hug, and we just met this guy.
Aww.
And he takes us out. He was really cool, really awesome. And one of the things that he had us do, besides the terrible poses that first off, I suck at yoga. Second, I might be a little
very good.
I might be a little too big for my workout gear, but the thing that he had us do on the way back, and he's like, let's sit down here for a snack. And he tells us about his history a little bit. He started doing yoga when he went to school in California. He went in high school, I guess, in California in the 70s and 80s. They taught yoga as part of gym class, which is cool. And then
I believe it.
anyway, he takes us back, and he hands us all a piece of chocolate, and he's like, I made this. And
I am throwing that
no
down the canyon.
No, and he's like, so
Adam,
we're gonna do something
You
called.
don't know what's in that chocolate.
So we
Go
all
ahead.
blissfully.
Say out loud, I had the chocolate made by Yogi Blair.
I had the chocolate made by Yogi Blair.
You ate
He
it.
got it from the Chocolate Tree, which is a restaurant in town
The
that makes
story's
their own
already got
chocolate.
holes. He got it or he made it.
Well, he got the chocolate paste and then made it at home because you warm it up.
What
and
did
he told us how to make it.
What did he put in the paste?
Nothing. It was fine.
He didn't even tell you his real name.
How happy were you when you were doing yoga?
Well, I was happy because I love chocolate, and he said on the way back, instead of talking, we're gonna have this chocolate in our mouth, we're gonna let it melt, and we're gonna do a meditation on chocolate and how happy we are and life is great and that sort of thing. So we did chocolate meditation on the way back, which I thought was interesting.
Was the sky looking really good after that?
No.
Was it just really epic views after that?
When you didn't collapse and die, did he look strangely disappointed?
No. He was great, man. He was.
Did he
was great.
invite you back to his place to make more
Nope,
chocolate?
Nope.
No?
He did none of
Okay.
those things. He was fantastic.
Can you just go get the ingredients? They're down in the cellar. It's a little cramped down there. I can't go do it myself. No, keep going.
No, he was
and
great.
then Adam put the lotion in the basket.
Anyway, this guy turned out to be super cool, but was like, at first you first see him, you're like, oh my God. Okay, this is what we're committing to. This is what we're gonna do. Super cool guy.
It sounds really romantic.
It was. And there was other romance stuff, and I won't get into that. Caprice walked out of no less than 5 shops with shit she didn't need.
Oh, good.
Crystals and rocks and whatever that they sell to tourists that are, charged these two, and they're gonna make you
She's
feel
like
great.
Hank from Breaking Bad.
Oh my God, it's crazy. And then she walked out of them when she's like, you see those things in the sky? I said, yeah, because the sky there's no clouds there, and it's beautiful, it's huge. And she's like, yeah, the guy in the store was telling me about them. He said that it's the government doing experiments
Oh
on the
my
people.
God.
And I'm like, you mean chemtrails? She's like, yeah, that's what he called it. I'm like, and she's like, and she says it's been going on for 30 years. I said, oh yeah? I said, well, what was his proof? And she said, well, they dropped Agent Orange on people back in the 70s. And I said, interesting. How do you know about that? And she said, well, it came out. And I said, wouldn't you think that after 30 years, if they were continuing to do that somehow maybe would have leaked? Well, I guess I never really thought of it that way. And I'm like, honey,
No,
we're
Adam.
in Sedona. These people, some are totally chill and cool. Some people may be conspiracy theorists.
Adam, every pilot in America and every airline in the world is in on this.
That's right. Everyone.
They're all dropping dust on you to make you go crazy and not take your vaccines.
That's right. And have cancer.
Call it
Yes.
by its name, Jesse. Barium.
Is that what
That
it
is actually what that
Oh,
was.
really? There you go, Steve. Steve with the knowledge.
Oh, I've been on the internet.
Yeah. So
Steve Dangle. He's been
basically, what I realized was that Sedona is all parts of Twitter.
Mm.
Sedona is your craziest conspiracy theories.
on the internet. Who ran
Sedona
up to you and
is
screamed bitch.
no, nobody. Sedona is your most intelligent, brilliant people that are there. It is literally like a subsection of the world, and it is of the world of Twitter anyway. And you got your people that are a little crazy.
Is it literally
that
the
little-
nicest?
No, I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that.
There are a lot of racists.
I didn't see that either. No, it's
Okay.
very liberal.
Well,
it was
then
a lot
it's
of Bernie
nothing like
Sanders.
Twitter.
Then it's nothing like Twitter.
Yeah, you're right. Okay, except for the hardcore right wing people.
Okay.
There are a lot of Bernie Sanders signs and stuff out there. One thing that you have to do if you
Met
ever
this
go,
nice guy doing yoga. He's like, "Hi, I'm Colton." Sorry. Anyway,
two things. That's funny. Two things that you have to do if you ever go.
You finally got it.
Jerome, which is a city outside of Sedona, is an old copper town, and at one point, Jerome had the most brothels per square capita of any place on planet Earth, and it has got some crazy stories. And we went out and we did a ghost tour because it was 150 years ago this copper mine started. A person a day died at this mine. It was so dangerous. And there at one point was 30 to 35,000 people on a hill.
And they all said, we gotta keep mining.
Yeah.
Never mind the dead bodies.
And so what they would do is crazy. They would, if you couldn't afford to be buried in the field, they would put you in the incinerator at the coal mine for $25. They'd make you, and they weren't paying you much. They may be paying you, if it was $1 a day, you'd be lucky. So they're charging these families who now have no source of
They
income
charge you like a month's pay to-
$25 to put
What
their.
year is this?
This is anywhere between
1979.
1870 and about 1950. And what's crazy is you become, when you put it, it's 2,500 degrees. They heat these things too. You become a ball of carbon. It turns your body into a rock of carbon. And so they took these rocks
I
and
feel it
built
now and then.
their buildings with them.
What?
There are pieces of carbon in the stone in the buildings.
No, there's pieces of people.
Yeah, well, which carbon?
The people.
Carbon
There are people that are holding up
Why
that
did
house.
you go to this place?
And so and no,
For
it
your
was-
honeymoon.
It was a ghost
Honey, let's go
town.
to the people buildings place.
Hey,
we
you
didn't
wanna
know
get this
before.
jacket? It's made of skin.
We didn't know before. We didn't know.
Are you about size 14?
I got a human right here I can cut up.
Oh my god.
Puts the lotion on its skin.
Fucking lotion in the basket.
And I got to keep telling you this stuff because this stuff is fascinating. You have to go to Jerome if you're ever in Arizona. But one of the things that the guy that owned this
I don't know if
mine,
it's fascinating or saw age.
it's also sad.
Okay.
But the guy that owned this mine was the guy that founded Las Vegas. So when he died, he was the richest man
There
in
was
the
a
world.
guy that founded Las Vegas.
Yeah, he was the guy that kind of started it all. And so he.
Danny DeVito?
Are we sure his name's
You're not
not
looking
Jerome?
this up. Come on, let me tell you the story before we gotta go.
All right.
Fuck.
Do you have a show
You guys
today?
are impossible. Yes.
Oh, shit.
I want chicken fingers.
What?
I'm sorry, what? Go ahead.
So he decides that he doesn't want workers who are not intelligent. He decides that it's better to have guys in the mine who are smart and well-read and at least can write and read and do all those things. So what he does for the town is he builds them a state-of-the-art high school in the 19-teens, like the teens, 1920, something like that. So you walk into this old high school, which is now an art commune, and it is terrifying because you're ghost hunting, and they give you these little meters and that sort of thing. And they tell a couple stories. And one of the stories is if your father died, if your father's working in the mine, and the men were at that point the main breadwinners in the town, if your father's working in the mine and you are the eldest son in your family and you're over the age of, I think, 14, if your father dies, company does you a solid.
Oh, good.
They give you 3 days to mourn, and then they give you his job.
That's cool.
So your father dies
Is
in the
it?
mine,
No, but then you got a job.
but then you have to leave
Think of all
school.
the schooling you didn't have to do.
Yeah, you have to leave school and then go work his job. So there was a young man, and a lot of the workers there, of course, Hispanic. One of them was named Luis, and Luis, in a very racist town, was the star quarterback on the high school football team. Was one of the star people in the school. Was very handsome, very popular. His dad dies.
Oh no.
4 days later, he's in the mine, and he falls down a 1,000-foot shaft.
Lives.
Dies.
Damn it.
So when they found him, he had no extremities. And
This is your honeymoon?
it was just crazy shit.
Okay,
Crazy.
so he has no extremities.
He's no
What do they do?
extremities. So what the story they tell you is, well, now he hangs out at the school because that was, you have to remember that
Oh, his
school
ghost.
life was very good for them at school, but outside of school it was freaking hard. So they said a lot of spirits linger here because this is where their happy memories are.
All right, you lost
So that's great. Yeah, well, so we don't find any ghosts, but we do see when they take us out to the
Oh, you didn't
cemetery.
find ghosts?
I know, wild, right?
Wow.
So we go into the cemetery and we look up in the sky. And we're like, what the fuck is that? It's this like weird orb. Turns out the SpaceX rocket launch had happened that day, and it had gone once around the world. And we saw the 2 pieces or the 3 pieces that came off and landed. We saw them break off the SpaceX rocket in a dark field in the middle of
Nice.
Jerome, Arizona, which was insane.
After eating stranger chocolate
Yeah.
in a place with buildings made of people
Anyway, so
in
you
a
could-
death mine
Yo,
town.
look up Jerome. It is crazy. Okay, last thing I'm going to tell you is this. Go to the Grand Canyon, short story. If you're afraid of heights like I am, it is absolutely terrifying, but worth going down. Now, the Grand Canyon is so big that they recommend you don't hike to the bottom and then back up to the top in one day.
Holy shit.
It's that big.
Probably not a good idea.
Not a good idea. So they recommend you bringing a tent down and hanging out overnight down
the
there.
bottom of the Grand Canyon.
You can't imagine until you see it how it is so insanely raw when you see it. It is so like it's Mother Nature going, you're nothing. You're nothing. Like F you, man. You are nothing. You are small. You are tiny. It's 280 miles across. It's insane. And what's crazy
a lot
is
of miles.
you walk down these pathways, and I guess Arizonans are used to this stuff, but you'd think that there'd be like a railing.
Mm.
There is. You're walking along the side of a cliff face. It is 100 feet up and 1,000-foot drop to your right, and the pathway is full of ice because it's wintertime, and it's maybe 2 feet wide. And you are walking, and there is people coming up, and there is people going down, and they're going faster and slower and whatever, and you are on this pathway with no railing.
How many
Deaths
people
happen
die?
every year.
How many people?
I don't know. But
All
people die every year. And
You're,
it is-
you're giving me flashbacks to when Mrs. Dangle almost ended the podcast very abruptly.
Oh, really?
She almost freaking killed us on our honeymoon in California.
Oh, really?
We were driving on a tight road, and there was a turn, and she just decided straight was the way she wanted to go. Ooh, yeah, we didn't go over. We made it. I'm still here.
Oh, man.
That's pretty cool.
Grand Canyon was the most unbelievable thing I've ever seen, and it was absolutely terrifying. And Caprice is like climbing up on rocks and going, take pictures of me there. There was one point she climbed up about 2 feet higher than the path. If she'd slipped just a little bit, she's dead. She's dead. She's gone. I walked away and I said, I will not be a widower in my first week of marriage. I'm out of here. So I would refuse to take a picture. I kept walking. I'm like, no.
Why
see ya.
did you go to this place?
Because you have to see it.
Nah.
It's amazing.
Nah.
Guesses? How many people have died at the Grand Canyon since the mid 1800s?
Oh, it's got to be in the thousands.
54,000.
I'm gonna say 3,000.
56,000.
770.
That's it?
That's it.
Get the hell out of here.
Yeah, only 770.
Man,
It's about 12 people per year die. That's
That
from
makes sense.
2014, yeah.
that's still high. 12 people a year,
yeah.
that sounds high to
If
me.
there's a thing and it's just killing 12 people every year, that's pretty aggressive.
Well, yeah, but you understand, like there's nothing they can do, right? Like they
Oh, yeah.
can't make it safer, and they're not going to keep people away. So it is what it is, and you have to go. And if you go in the summertime, apparently it's packed. So imagine you're snaking your way down this hill,
I don't wanna
1,000-foot drop,
No.
and there's people like behind you, in front of you. Go in the wintertime when it's clear. It's a little colder, but it's fine. It's Arizona. It's not that cold. And the beauty of it is incredible, but I spent the entire day absolutely terrified. And you know when you sweat, when you're scared, and it stinks? I reeked afterwards because I was so scared. I'm not afraid of many things. I can watch any horror movie. I can do anything. That terrified me. Like white, turn your blood white. Scary. Yeah.
SL and I went to a taping of Jimmy Kimmel.
We did romantic things too, but no one wants to hear about that.
Shit, Adam.
Anyway, yeah. Grand Canyon, check it out. Don't die.
Well, so on that note,
Or you can just take a helicopter ride, which is way better.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, take it through the thing. It's expensive, but
Steve,
I
I
would
sent
do
you
it.
a bunch of important emails. You should go look at them.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, I think what we learned today is screw that place a lot, and also Nikita Soshnikov is not hurt, but he is. And if you're a Leaf fan, you're fine with
What's
it.
this email?
Yeah. Why did you send me?
I sent you.
You sent me 5 emails.
Yeah, you haven't been looking at the Steve Dangle podcast email, and people have had business inquiries for you, and some of them are like very important and real. So you should probably look at them. And now
We should probably look at
end
them.
The show.
Okay. All right. Well, we're going to end it there. If you have more questions, you can tweet me directly. Anyway, Grand Canyon, insane. Go see it. Love you guys. See you Thursday.
Follow the guys on Twitter at Steve_Dangle, at Adam WYLDE, and at Jesse Blake.
The Steve Dangle Podcast. Brought to you by Panago Pizza. Order at panago.com and stuff your face with deliciousness.